You're curled up tonight, maybe with a glass of wine, maybe just the glow of your phone, and I need you to feel this with me. Because what happened 3 nights ago on the Adrian Kane show wasn't just television. It was the moment an entire kingdom cracked wide open on live air. Picture it, 11:37 p.m. New York. The studio lights are that perfect late night gold. The audience is buzzing. And Princess Leora of Valmont, yes, the Leora, the woman we all watched grow from a wide-eyed 19-year-old bride into the poised, heartbreakingly beautiful Duchess of Claremont, is sitting on that famous midnight blue couch. She's wearing this emerald silk dress that costs more than most people's houses, and her smile is doing that thing it always does, polite, practiced, but somehow still warm. Like she's letting you in on a secret only the two of you share. And then Adrian Kane asks the question, not the gentle, pre-approved question about her children's charity or the drought in the southern provinces. No, he goes straight for the jugular. Princess, he says, leaning in like they're old friends. There's a letter circulating anonymous, of course, that claims your husband, Prince Consort Elias, has been, let's say, less than faithful with someone very close to your household. Some are even saying the palace paid millions to keep it quiet. Care to comment? The studio goes dead silent. I swear you could hear Leora's heart stop. Her face. God, her face. First, it's confusion, like she genuinely thinks it's a bit, a skit they forgot to warn her about. Then the realization hits. Her lips part, just barely, and her eyes, those famous storm gray eyes, feel so fast. It's like someone turned on a tap. She doesn't cry prettily. She cries like someone who's been holding back an ocean for years, and 37 seconds later, yes. I've watched the clip 1,000 times. She stands up, whispers something we now know was, "I'm sorry. I can't," rips the microphone pack off her back so hard the wire snaps, and walks off the set in tears while 10 million people watch live. The internet exploded. Hashtag Leora Walks trended for 48 hours straight. The palace released a statement so cold it could have frozen hell. And somewhere in Valmont, in the east wing of Claremont Palace, a marriage that once looked unbreakable shattered into a million pieces on camera. But that night in New York, that was only the finale. Let me take you back to how we got here. .id starts for years ago, in a rose garden that doesn't officially exist. The year is 2021. Princess Leora, then still Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Claremont, has just given birth to her second child, little Princess Amara. The official photos are flawless, Leora in soft white, cradling the baby, Elias gazing at them both like they're the only two people in the world. The caption reads, "Our family is complete," except it wasn't. Behind the scenes, the palace was drowning. Elias had always been the charming spare-turned-heir after his older brother tragically died in that skiing accident everyone still whispers about. He was funny, reckless, adored by the tabloids. Leora was the calm that steadied him, the foreign commoner who'd somehow tamed a prince. Their wedding had been the fairy tale of the decade, but by 2021, the cracks were showing. Staff whispered that Elias had started disappearing for days officially, on naval duties unofficially. Well, Leora was raising their son Cashin and newborn Amara almost alone. She'd smile for the cameras, but palace footmen said she'd stopped singing in the shower. That's how they knew something was wrong. Leora always sang in the shower, and then came Serafina Voss. You've never heard of her, because the palace made sure of that. Serafina was Leora's private secretary, 29. Stunning, Oxford-educated, and fiercely loyal. Or so everyone thought. She'd been with Leora since the engagement, the one who knew where every skeleton was buried because she'd helped dig the holes. In private, staff called them the sisters they never had. Serafina would stay up with Leora until dawn when the babies wouldn't sleep. She was the one who held Leora's hair back when postpartum depression hit so hard she couldn't get out of bed. She was family, or so Leora believed. The first rumor surfaced in spring 2022. A junior press officer overheard Elias on the phone in the palace gym laughing, low-voiced, saying, "I miss you too, darling." She suspects nothing. The officer reported it up the chain. The chain buried it. That's what chains do. But rumors are like smoke. They find the cracks. By Christmas 2022, Leora knew something was wrong. She just didn't know it was Serafina. Imagine that for a second. Your husband is distant. Your best friend, the person you trusted with your children, your secrets. Your life is suddenly always working late, and you're so exhausted, so isolated in that gilded cage that you blame yourself. One former maid, Mathil, who only spoke to me on condition I never reveal her real name, told me this. I was folding laundry in the Duchess's dressing room when I found a man's watch under the shades. Gold, engraved on the back, to E. Forever yours, as Her Grace walked in. Saw it and went white. She asked me whose it was. I lied, said I'd never seen it before. She knew I was lying. She just nodded. And then she said, very quietly, please burn it. I cried the whole way to the incinerator. That was December 2022.by March 2023. The palace knew they had a problem. Elias had been photographed coming out of a London hotel at a M with a redhead whose face was pixelated in every paper. The official line, a friend from university. The unofficial line, Serafina. Leora stopped wearing her wedding ring in private. She started writing letters, not emails. Letters to her mother back in California. One of them leaked last year. I'm going to read you a part because it breaks me every time. Mom, I wake up every morning and for 3 seconds I forget. Then I remember I live in a house where everyone is lying to me, including the woman I loved like a sister. I smile for the children. I smile for the cameras. But inside, I'm screaming and no one hears. I miss you. I miss who I was before I learned how lonely a palace can be. The palace press office went into overdrive. They announced a new initiative for mental health. They flew Leora to Africa for photo ops with orphans. Anything to keep the story off the front pages, and for a while, it worked until Adrian Kane's producers came calling. They wanted Leora for the 10th anniversary special of the Adrian Kane Show. Big ratings. Soft questions, perfect for image rehab. The palace thought it was safe. Adrian had always been friendly. He'd interviewed the king and queen mother without incident. They flew her to New York first class, put her up at the Carlisle, had stylists and media trainers on standby. Serafina came too officially to manage the schedule. Everyone noticed Leora barely looked at her the entire trip. The morning of the show, Leora had a panic attack in her hotel suite. Her new dresser, Claudine, found her on the bathroom floor, gasping, clutching that emerald dress like it was a life raft. I can't do this, she kept saying. I can't pretend anymore. Claudine, who later quit because she couldn't be part of the lie, helped her up. Did her makeup while Leora stared at herself in the mirror like she didn't recognize the woman looking back. And still, she went because that's what princesses do. They go. They smile. They bleed in private. At 11:35 p.m. She walked onto that stage believing the worst was behind her. At 11:37. Adrian Kane asked a question that ended everything. The moment she stood up, microphone cord snapping, heels echoing on that polished floor. You could hear someone in the control room whisper, "Oh my God." The audience didn't know whether to clap or cry. Leora didn't look back. She walked straight through the curtains, past the stunned producers, into the New York night, and got into a black SUV that took her directly to Teterboro, where a private jet was waiting. By the time the palace realized what happened, she was already 30,000 feet over the Atlantic, heading home to a husband who'd just been exposed to the world, and a best friend who'd sold her out for headlines. And that, my loves, was only the beginning, because when Leora landed at Valmont International the next morning, hair unbrushed, eyes swollen, still wearing that emerald dress now wrinkled and stained with mascara, the real storm was just about to break. But that's for chapter 2, right now. I want you to sit with how quiet it got in that studio after she left. How Adrian Kane, the man who's made a career out of charming secrets out of people, just sat there, mouth open, realizing he'd gone too far. I want you to think about a woman who spent years protecting everyone else's feelings while hers were ground into dust. And I want you to ask yourself, how much is one person supposed to take before they finally walk away? Because Princess Leora of Valmont just did, and the kingdom will never be the same. The jet touched down at 6:14 a.m. local time. No red carpet, no honor guard, just one lone equerry in a dark coat, holding an umbrella against the drizzle that always seems to fall on Valmont when the monarchy is bleeding. Leora stepped onto the tarmac. Barefoot, she kicked off her heels somewhere over Greenland because her feet were swollen from crying so hard her whole body hurt. The emerald dress was ruined, one strap torn where she'd yanked the mic pack free, hem soaked in airport coffee someone had spilled in panic. Her hair hung in dark ropes around her face. She looked like a shipwreck survivor, and the first thing she said, voice raw, was, "Where are my children?" Cashin and Amara had been flown to the king's private estate at Highmont the night before for security, the palace claimed. Everyone knew it was so Elias could control the narrative before she got home. She didn't go to Claremont Palace, her official residence. She went straight to Highmont, 140 miles through pouring rain. Sirens clearing the motorway because the police didn't know what else to do with a princess who looked like she might actually shatter if they made her wait in traffic when the cars screamed up the gravel drive. The king was already waiting on the front steps. 78 years old, still ramrod straight in his navy overcoat, face carved from granite. He took one look at his daughter-in-law and the fight went out of him. He opened his arms and Leora, proud, unbreakable Leora, fell into them like a little girl and sobbed so hard the household staff had to look away. Inside, Elias was in the library with his private secretary and 2 crisis PR people from London. The fire was roaring, papers everywhere, phones on silent but lighting up like a disco. He heard her before he saw her. The front door slammed, footsteps fast, furious. Then the library door flew open so hard it bounced off the wall. Elias stood up, tried for a smile. "Darling, don't," she said. One word. It cracked like a whip. The PR people suddenly found reasons to study the carpet. The private secretary actually took a step back. Leora didn't scream. She didn't need to. Her voice was low, lethal, trembling with 4 years of swallowed rage. "Get out," she told the staff. "All of you." They scattered like startled birds. The door shut. Silence so thick you could drown in it. And then she said the sentence that would be quoted in every history book about this family for the next 100 years. "You let her sleep in our bed while I was in the hospital with our daughter. You let her hold my hand while I pushed, knowing you'd been inside her the night before. And you have the nerve to stand there and call me darling?" Elias opened his mouth. Nothing came out. She took one step closer. "I trusted you with my life," she whispered. "I trusted her with my children. And you both watched me drown." Then she did something no one expected. She laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound that turned into a sob halfway through. "Do you know what the worst part is?" she asked. "I still love you. God help me, I still love you. And I hate myself for it." Elias dropped to his knees, right there on the antique Persian rug, and started to cry, not pretty princely tears. Ugly, snot-nosed, begging sobs. "Leora, please. It was a mistake. It was, don't you dare say it meant nothing." She cut in. "It meant everything." "Because it meant I meant nothing." She turned to leave. He grabbed her wrist. She looked down at his hand like it burned. "Let go of me," she said very calmly, "or I swear on our children I will scream this house down until every reporter in Europe hears." "Exactly what you did." He let go. She walked out straight to the nursery where Cashin, 6 years old, and Amara, 3, were eating breakfast with their nanny. Cashin took one look at his mother's face and burst into tears. Amara just held up her arms. Leora scooped them both up, buried her face in their hair, and whispered over and over, "Mommy's here. Mommy's got you. I'm never leaving you again." That afternoon, the palace released its first official statement. Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Claremont has returned to Valmont and is spending private time with her children. Reports of marital discord are greatly exaggerated. The internet laughed so hard it broke, because by then the letter was everywhere. You know the one. The anonymous palace insider letter that Adrian Kane had waved on air like a red flag in front of a wounded bull. It had been emailed to every major outlet at a New York time. Perfectly timed to detonate after Leora walked off. 8 pages. Single-spaced. Devastating. It detailed dates. Hotels, gifts, a diamond bracelet engraved, "Forever isn't long enough, S." Even the brand of sheets in the East Wing guest room where most of it allegedly happened. And it ended with this line: "She forgave him the first time. She won't survive the second. Someone has to tell her before she breaks completely." The tabloids called it the Serafina letter. Within hours, Serafina Voss vanished. Her apartment in the capital was empty. Her office at Claremont Palace cleared out. Phones dead. Socials deleted. One neighbor claimed she saw a woman with red hair wearing huge sunglasses loading suitcases into a black cab at dawn. The palace refused to comment on her whereabouts. But royal reporters noticed that Prince Elias's protection officers had doubled overnight. That night, Leora did something no one saw coming. She called her mother, not an encrypted palace line, her personal cell phone, the one only 6 people in the world had the number to, and she asked for help. Her mother, Dr. Juliana Reyes, retired pediatric surgeon, California royalty in her own right, was on a plane within 2 hours. She landed the next morning with one carry-on and the kind of fury only a mother can carry when someone has hurt her child. She marched into Highmont like she owned it, hugged Leora so hard they both cried, then turned to the equerry and said, "Take me to my son-in-law." Now, the confrontation in the king's study that afternoon has gone down in palace lore. Juliana didn't raise her voice once. She simply laid every printed page of the Serafina letter on the antique desk, one by one, while Elias stood there like a schoolboy. When she was done, she looked him dead in the eye and said, "You had the world's most extraordinary woman, and you traded her for a secretary with ambition. I hope it was worth it, because you just lost your family. And I promise you, I will spend whatever time I have left on this earth making sure my daughter never spends one more minute wondering if she was enough. She was always more than enough. You were the one who wasn't." Then she walked out, left him standing there surrounded by the wreckage of his own making. 2 days later, Leora made her first public appearance since the walkout, a children's hospital opening in the north. She wore pale blue, the color of Valmont's flag, hair in a simple ponytail. No jewelry except the tiny gold necklace Cashin had made her in school. She didn't take pre-approved questions. Instead, she stood at the podium, looked straight into the cameras, and said, "I am deeply grateful for the love and support I have received from the people of this country over the past difficult days. My children are my entire world, and I will protect their peace above all else. Thank you for respecting our privacy at this time." Then she smiled, small, sad, but real, and added, "I have learned that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing a person can do. And sometimes walking toward your children is the only direction that matters." The crowd erupted, not polite royal applause, real raw cheering. Grown men were crying. Nurses were hugging each other. Someone started chanting, "Leora, Leora," and it spread until the whole courtyard was roaring. That was the moment the country chose her, not the monarchy, not tradition, her. And that was the moment Elias realized the game was over, because when a nation falls in love with a woman scorned, there is no coming back from it. But he tried. God, did he try? Late that night, he showed up at Highmont unannounced, drunk, disheveled, begging the guards to let him in. They radioed upstairs. Leora was reading bedtime stories to the children. She came down in her dressing gown, hair twisted up, face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked about 19 again. And utterly exhausted, they met in the moonlit great hall. No staff, just the two of them and centuries of ancestors staring down from oil paintings. "I'm leaving the children here," she said before he could speak, "with my mother. And I'm going back to Claremont tomorrow to pack my things. After that, I don't know where we go. But it won't be together. Leora, please know," she held up a hand, "you don't get to do this anymore. You don't get to cry and make it my job to fix you." She took a shaky breath. "I spent years thinking if I was just better, prettier, thinner, quieter, more royal, you would love me the way I loved you. I was wrong. The problem was never me." She stepped closer, close enough to smell the whiskey on his breath. "Goodbye, Elias," and she walked away up the grand staircase. Without looking back, he sank onto the cold marble floor and stayed there until dawn, when the household staff found him curled up like a child, still clutching the little stuffed rabbit Amara had left on the sofa weeks ago. The next morning, the king summoned them both, not to reconcile, to deliver the verdict, because the monarchy might be ancient, but even kings answer to public opinion when it turns feral, and Valmont had turned. So had the king's own heart.